Everything was going well with us, but then one beautiful day I saw him with another woman. He was supposed to pick me up from work, but his phone was unavailable. As it turned out, he had gone for a drive with some girl. I happened to see him. Apparently, I thought I didn't recognize him. I just finished work early. I cried all the way home. I had never been so hurt in my life. When I got home, he was lying in bed like nothing had happened. He said he fell asleep and his phone died. I told him I knew, and he denied it at first, but then he confessed. I ended up leaving him. Apparently, I was weak-willed that a few weeks later, I just asked him to go for a walk with me. It was very hard for me without him. After the breakup, he called, worried about me, as he said. Eventually, we started dating again and wanted to start a family. We got married. Our beloved son was born, and all was well. My husband got a job in another country. He came home every weekend, and upon arrival, he would jokingly ask, "Where is the lover hiding?" Often he'd come unannounced to check on me. I was a faithful wife, and I had nothing to fear. Only this distrust on his part I did not like. He was always jealous of me. I was always attractive and looked after myself. Even after childbirth, I recovered quickly and was in shape. I never gave my husband a reason because I loved him a lot. It turned out that he had a little bit of everything himself. One day he came home and left his computer on. I was emailing his sister a lot through his email account. And then I saw in his email that a message had come from a dating site from a girl. I remember at the beginning of our relationship asking him that if he met someone else he'd better tell her right away because he had a bitter experience. And I told him that my ex-boyfriend had met girls on the dating site, and I could not forgive his betrayal. I left him. I asked my lover not to do that, and he promised. It wasn't until later that I realized it was my mistake. Eventually, I found out that he had met a girl in another country. And it turned out that he had even met girls of easy virtue. It was an indescribable pain because I trusted him completely. It was a double betrayal. He denied everything, but then he confessed. I couldn't forgive. I took my son and moved away. We had no contact with him. He remitted alimony, and sometimes he took his son out for a walk. A couple of years later, I met another man, got married, and had 2 girls. We lived together for 5 years, but when he left to earn money in another country, as I found out later, he started smoking pot there, drinking a lot, and then he started laying hands on me. In the end, I left. Maybe my ex-husband was the reason for that. We wanted the whole family to move to Finland. We found a place to live, and my husband got a job. I asked his permission to register my son in another country. But he refused, saying that he would never see his son again. I offered to make a schedule of meetings, and we would bring my son to him if he wanted, or he would come if possible. Although he very rarely met with his child, his work or his relationship interfered. In the end, my husband went there to work alone, and we stayed here, and then our family broke up, as I wrote above. And after a while, the ex showed up again. He found out I was single and proposed a non-committal relationship. My heart was pounding. As it turned out, my feelings for him woke up again. This was a man I loved very much. I wanted at that moment to snuggle up to him and feel his warmth. I thought that after so many years he wanted to be with me again. Perhaps he loved me, he had changed. I told him I didn't want to live like this. I wanted a full family. To which he replied that he would never accept my children by my second husband. And I didn't give in to the momentary passion and denied him intimacy and a relationship. I was wrong about him. People like that don't change. He asked in amazement, "You turned me down." He had no contact with his son when I was married. He started talking to him after I got divorced. And even now, he doesn't really need the baby. Only I began to notice that he started treating me badly and saying bad things about me to my son. When my son asked me why we broke up with him, I told him straight out that he had met another woman. The child is now 15 years old. I didn't lie. And my son answered that Daddy said I was the one who broke up their family and left him. He says a lot of other bad things about me. Sometimes he calls me names and insults me. It turned out that he is trying to turn my son against me. But why? What is it? Revenge for the rejection? We are strangers to each other now. I never say anything bad about my father to my son, and this is after he said he wanted a relationship with me. Now I know for a fact that he didn't have love, and he doesn't. And I have never once regretted turning him down. This is a man who thinks only of himself. Now I am alone with my beloved children, and I don't want a relationship anymore. It all hurts, especially the betrayal of loved ones. Maybe it was my own fault for giving all of myself and loving.
A girl's discontent is over the line. I met a girl from out of town. Closed, homely, lived with her mother. We talked, realized that we could try to live together, but she could not make up her mind. I put the matter to the point. Either we move or end the relationship. She accepted the first offer. Since I lived with my son, 12 years old, from my first marriage in a one-room apartment, I decided, at my girlfriend's insistence, to take a two-room apartment on mortgage. I had enough money for a simple but good repair. We have been living for a year, but I see one thing from her side. I'm not at home. Home is in my city with my mother. Everything is alien here. The apartment is bad. As for household chores, on her cooking, cleaning in our room. Everything else on me. Bathroom, hallway, son's room. Well, as agreed. Cleaning in the hallway is mine in a foreign city, and in someone else's house, she will not clean. Previously, there was a lot of free money, but now because of the mortgage, I sagged, and the rent is more expensive. There is no way to spoil. But friends give flowers plus 100 roses, etc., while I only on major holidays. There's good perfume, a bouquet. Her work is good. There is an opportunity to ask for a week at home to his mother. There to live. I do not think there is another man. My gut tells me so. A break from family relationships. So there you go. I am a non-drinker, but I have a hobby, a few evenings a month. But the time spent on hobbies is put to me, because I do not spend time with the girl together. And with me she does not want to be when I do hobbies. She likes to stay home. It feels like family, but it feels like it's not family. Suffers the feeling that I feel like everything is my fault. We have talked many times about the relationship. She wants me to take responsibility and end the relationship. She does not want to, apparently. It seems to me that when I lived alone with my son it was better. At least no one was getting on my nerves.
A relationship that defies logic. I live with a man who does things that defy logic. He does things that don't fit his sweet talk. I am in love with such a man, and I am tormented like hell. When I fell in love, my first impression was that he was a simple, modest man, not a womanizer for sure. But after living with him for over a year, I think he is such a fool, and I know everything and accept him with all his flaws. Before I met him, about loving people like me, myself said that the stupid, I would never allow such a thing. And in the end, I'm like under a curse loving such a womanizer that the mind tells me to run without a glance, and having stumbled and fallen, crawl all the same as hard as you can. But I am with him. The last thing he did was to sell his apartment so he could buy a nice car that has the color of the eyes of the woman he loves, and she left him 3 years ago because of this behavior of his. He called and corresponded with others. I know he loves her because he writes her about it all the time, calls her. I've been eavesdropping, sometimes confuses her with me, I think. Yesterday he told me that he bought a car to match the color of my eyes. I have brown eyes. The car is gray light green. I looked at a picture of that woman. She had that color in her eyes. It hurts so bad again, and again I know I'm going to live with him that way. 2 months ago, we fought for 3 weeks. I left him. And during that time, he was able to seduce that woman again, and even managed to live with her. But for some reason she left again. And he found me again, and with his sweet speeches about his love for me, persuaded me to go back to him. I, of course, learned everything from the kind neighbors, and I myself saw changes in the environment and new items. Then after all, he admitted to me that it was her, she had too many demands, and he chose to live with me. I'm just a masochist in my opinion, listening to all this, knowing, watching. I don't know how to break up this relationship, I just don't have the strength, and that's all. Leaving him doesn't help. We live on a rotational basis, 1 month together, 2 weeks apart. Besides this woman, he has several others. But this one is a favorite. I am writing this confession to share and unburden my soul. I know, you will say that you need to give up and all, but it is impossible. I love him and suffer. He loves everyone but me, but keeps me near him like a dog.